that was missing. So before I could actually go ahead to resolve it, an official from the Personal Data Protection Office reached out to me, and they also confirmed the same information. That information was missing.
Your personal calls are private. Personal transactions are private. Your medical information is private. Your education background is private. Your mobile money balance is private. Personal data is private. Protect it. Introducing the Personal Data Protection Portal. Log on to www.pdpo.go.ug or dial *260#, select privacy to report personal data misuse or breach. Personal data can only be accessed in accordance with the Data Protection and Privacy Act. This message is brought to you by the Personal Data Protection Office, the office responsible for implementing the Data Protection and Privacy Act 2019, with support from UNCDF.
The experience of the Ministry of Health and my own experience in using the data portal, I think it is important to note that a mechanism that can be filled remotely that does not allow us to move physically to the Data Protection Office is one that greatly and significantly ensures completeness of this report. We found the form quite useful and easy to use. It was quite intuitive with drop downs and checkboxes, allowing us to easily fill the form. And of course, there are those notifications that come in through our emails that allow authentication, making sure that the information we provide is accurate. Regards
Mrs. Stella Alibatesa and the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of ICT, Dr. Amina Zawedde. Now I would like to call upon the Director of Data Protection Services to take us through the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming today. When we launch the Data Protection and Privacy Portal for the Personal Data Protection Office. A warm welcome to the Honorable Minister, Mrs. Joyce Sevugwawo, and our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Amina Zawedde, together with the Chairman, Board of Directors, NITAU, and our partners, UNCDF. Permit me, Honorable Minister, to give a few remarks that can give us a good setting for the event that we have today, especially for those who are here and for our partners our partners who are joining us virtually. Honorable Minister, the Permanent Secretary, the Chairman, Board of Directors, NITAU, the Executive Director, NITAU, the Digital Country Lead, UNCDF, participants, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining the Personal Data Protection Office at the launch of the Data Protection and Privacy Portal. I particularly welcome our participants who have joined us virtually. I especially thank the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, NITA Uganda, the UNCDF for supporting and partnering with us at this launch. They represent critical stakeholders in the journey towards implementation of the Data Protection and Privacy Act, since we shall need leadership from the Ministry in the formulation of policy and strategy for the responsible collection and processing of personal data in Uganda collaboration with other regulators, such as NITA in the information technology sector, and development partners such as UNCDF to support our initiatives to create an enabling environment to enhance compliance with the Data Protection and Privacy Act. I would like to give more highlight to the office. The Personal Data Protection Office is an independent office responsible for overseeing the implementation and enforcement of the Data Protection and Privacy Act, among other functions. The office launched its collaboration with UNCDF last year in September, and today we are launching not just one, but two initiatives born out of that collaboration. This includes the Data Protection and Privacy Portal and an awareness campaign that will enable all of us understand what private personal data is and how it is utilized. The portal will provide a platform for individuals to easily file complaints with us through the portal itself and SMS and USSD. It will provide a channel through which personal data security breaches will be notified to the Personal Data Protection Office. It enables persons who collect and process personal data register with the office, and also acts as a platform to promote knowledge about personal data protection and privacy best practices, guidelines, and tips. I need to add that one of the modules of the portal was made accessible to the public earlier on 4th March 2022, and as a result of that, it increased the number of organizations who have registered with the office. We currently have 345 organizations that have registered with the office, including public bodies like NERA. We all know NERA is the biggest personal data database in Uganda, so it's good that they are complying with the law. We have ministries such as Ministry of Health, who have also registered with the office, and this has been enabled by this portal. The portal is a critical part of the journey to compliance with the law because it enables us reach as many people as possible. At the office, we have a very lean structure with a very large task ahead of us. You're there for all partners in this journey. Our duty is to provide you with tools that will make it easy for you to comply, and your duty is to make use of them. The portal meets just that. You not only get a lot of information on the portal, but are also able to file your complaints, register with the office, or interact with it at your convenience, whether in your home, office, or wherever. On our part, we shall continue to provide content on the portal and other tools for access by those that need them. The portal also enables us to collect statistics that will help us as a regulator focus on what is relevant. For instance, if we find that the bulk of the complaints are coming from one entity, we can actually target our enforcement activities towards that organization, and in that way utilize our resources optimally. The collaboration with UNCDF has also borne another initiative that we are launching today, and that is an awareness campaign called Personal Data is Private. As I conclude, I take this opportunity to thank our parent ministry that championed the enactment of the law. I also wish to recognize UNCDF as a valuable partner of the office in implementation of the law and thank them for the tremendous support they so far given to the office. It is great that in supporting us, they also ultimately achieve their objective in ensuring no one is left behind through driving universal trusted digital systems, since respect of personal data enhances the trust in the use of digital technologies which they advocate for. I cannot forget to thank Applied Principles, who are a Ugandan company that has developed the portal. It is a testament to the power of the Bubu initiative. Last but not least, I thank NITAU and its leadership for its unwavering support in the operationalization of the office. The data protection and privacy portal is now live. I therefore urge individuals and organizations to make use of it. I also urge all organizations, both public and private, that collect and process personal data that have not yet registered with us to do so immediately before the long arm of the law catches up with them, since the grace period within which they should have done so elapsed on 30th December 2021. We've been quiet because we've been enhancing our tools to enable organizations register more easily, but we are already working on plans to start this enforcement activity. Before I wind up my remarks, I wish to recognize and applaud other stakeholders for their invaluable contributions towards the successful launch of the Data Protection and Privacy Portal, such as the Uganda Media Center for hosting us, and the press from the various media houses for covering this event. I thank the Honorable Minister for gracing this occasion. It says a lot about your resolve to ensure the implementation and enforcement of the Act. With these few remarks, I thank you all for joining us today, and I wish you good and productive deliberations. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, if you may allow 5 minutes so that we invite the country lead for UNCDF to just give a few remarks. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stella, for the kind words. Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, the Board Chair and ED NITA Uganda, the PDP office, distinguished guests, the media. It's a pleasure to be here as partners to the Private Data Protection Office. I bring you greetings from UNCDF, specifically my head of office, Dr. Dmitry Pozidaev, who was not able to be here because he's traveling. For us at UNCDF, it is a pleasure to be associated with today's launch. Today marks a great milestone, not for the office, not for the ministry, but for the digital transformation journey of the country. Today's launch of the portal is actually not just about the portal. It is about what the portal will enable us to achieve, which is building trust in the digital services and systems that we now use on a daily basis. Indeed, building trust in the digital economy requires that people is protected and that people's privacy is protected, and that is a key pillar in building digital trust. So why are we here as UNCDF? 10 months ago, UNCDF and the Data Privacy and Protection Office partnered to design, develop, and commission this portal. And this sits very well, and Stella mentioned it, within our strategy around building inclusive digital economies and ensuring that no one is left behind in the digital era. As you might know, digital solutions are here. Most of us use them, and they will only grow. But two risks that I'd like to mention today. One, linked to some people being left behind, and at UNCDF, we're very glad to work with the ministry to try to push that agenda of inclusivity as we drive digital transformation. Number two, which is linked to why we are here today, is that one's data can end up in the wrong hands, can be used for unsolicited reasons, and that's why a tool like this one is very important. Honorable Minister, we would like to commend the government of Uganda under your leadership at the ministry, NITA Uganda and the PDP office for the concrete steps taken in addressing potential risks in the digital transformation journey. The portal being launched today is really a continuation of the commitment of the government of Uganda to address the need for data privacy and data protection. First was the passing of the law and regulations then setting up an independent office like the PDPO, and today launching a portal that is going to enable them operationalize better that law. We would like to commend the PDPO for the efforts and visible achievements so far. In the short time the office has been operating, Madam Stella and the team, I would like to express that over the last 10 months, we've enjoyed working with you and your very capable team in bringing this portal to life. I'd also like to commend the consultant, Applied Principles, a Ugandan company that built the portal. I would invite you to visit the portal and see to what level it's at a good standard. I'm reliably informed, and Stella mentioned that the portal already has over 320 or 340 registered data controllers organizations, and that there was a hike or a spike in the registrations thanks to the portal, which is testament to the fact that the portal is very valuable in easing the process of registration. And this is what indeed digital ought to do, is to ease the process for people to access services, but also to comply with laws and regulations. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, as you might know, the UN minds a lot about inclusivity, and I'd like to commend the office for not just launching a web portal, knowing that many Ugandans don't have access to the internet, it's a work in progress, but being able to launch also channels like USSD, which only requires you to have any type of phone, SMS, and a toll-free line. So this will go a long way in enabling those that are not yet connected to be able to also access the same services. As I conclude, Honorable Minister, allow me to say that the efforts towards data privacy and protection are only starting. A lot of public awareness and education is needed, and Stella mentioned the start of a campaign that is going to create a lot of awareness, stakeholder engagement within public sector and private sector. The job of the PDPO is really well cut, and would like to call upon various stakeholders to provide support to the office because of the noble cause that they are entrusted with. Again, in the interest of all of us, there is need to build trust in the digital systems that we use every day, and that will drive adoption of services. So this is very important for private sector, public sector, and ourselves. I thank you, and hope we have a very good campaign going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Honorable Minister, with us here today, representatives from the National Information Technology Authority, Uganda. I'd like to recognize the President of Honorable James Chewalabye, who is the Acting Board Chair for NITA Uganda. Then the Executive Director, Dr. Hatweb Mogasa. Thank you. Mr. Arnold Mangeni, the Director for Information Security. Thank you. Yeah, at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Amina Zawede, the Permanent Secretary for Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, to offer her remarks. Yes, you're welcome.
The Honorable Minister of State for ICT and National Guidance, in charge of ICT, Honorable Joyce Sebugwao, the Chairman, NITA Board of Directors, Honorable James Chewalabye, the ED, NITA Dr. Hatweb Mogasa, the National Data Protection Director, Ms. Stella Aliva-Tese, the Digital Country Lead, UNCDF, participants and guests that we have here today, members of the press, good morning to you all. I warmly welcome you to this launch of the Data Protection and Privacy Portal, and congratulate the Data Protection Office on this momentous occasion. I also take this opportunity to thank and appreciate United Nations Capital Development Fund, which we are calling UNCDF, on the support that they have rendered government, especially towards our digital transformation agenda. We have got a lot of support in terms of, supporting us on our enabling environment, legal and policy frameworks. And now today we are here to witness the support of UNCDF towards the development of the data protection and privacy portal. I also congratulate our country, Uganda, for being the first country in East Africa to enact a data protection and privacy law. I am pleased to inform you that this trailblazing has continued, with the country being the first in the region to automate the registration process, which, as earlier mentioned by the UNCD lead, has resulted in 338 data controllers, data processors, and data collectors registered to date. This launch will make the rest of the portal available to the public, particularly by providing convenient avenues such as the portal itself, so that it's accessible anywhere you go. We are moving away from the tendency of having to queue up in offices or queue up in institutions to make registrations or to make clearances. But with such opportunities as this portal, it can be accessed anywhere. And through different media such as SMS, USSD, and other technologies that we shall later on embrace, that create convenience for access. There are compelling benefits from complying with the Data Protection and Privacy Act, one of which was just mentioned by the director as well as the country lead of UNCDF. Creating trust in our systems is something that we are grappling with world over. And of course, Uganda does not fall short of that. As we build trust in our systems, as we build trust in our operations under the Digital Transformation Program, we need to have a regulatory environment that supports this trust. And the Data Protection and Privacy Act that was enacted is able to help us address this. We have initiatives like the Fourth Industrial Revolution that encourage and enforce us to go into a lot of data manipulations, seeking for personal data that people should be willing to give to us if they trust our systems. Without this data, we can do so little, because it is what informs our planning and it is what informs our, resource allocation and so on and so forth. So putting initiatives as these in place will help us improve ourselves as a country towards better planning if people have trust in giving us their information. Further enacting and implementing the Data Protection and Privacy Act also opens up business opportunities for our business process outsourcing campaign and industry that we have currently as a country, because organizations worldwide prefer working with organizations or entities that have strong personal data protection and privacy policies in place. One of the issues we have, we went on a launch of branding Uganda as a destination for ICT investments and ICT skills in Dubai this year. But the initiatives that we have come up with fall short of that kind of trust. What protection do we have as companies from your country? And then we tell them, we have the data protection law in place. If we did not have that, then probably it would be an uphill task for us to create the partnerships that we have so far created in terms of encouraging and promoting employment of our youths across the globe. I am alive to the fact that for this to happen on a wider scale, we need to create more awareness of the law and how it helps the digital ecosystem and the citizens. I am therefore pleased to inform you that the Ministry of ICT will avail to the Data Protection Office the use of the available government broadcast media or platforms, such as this one, to further create awareness of the drive of the need to heed to data protection and privacy. This will be in addition to the awareness campaign launched today as announced by the National Personal Data Protection Director. As you are all aware, governments, ministries, departments and agencies collect a lot of personal data from citizens and other residents in the country for provision of various government services and for us to accelerate digital transformation. It is therefore imperative that public bodies that take compliance with the Act seriously, that recently we signed a circular requiring all accounting officers of government MDAs to comply with the law, starting with registering their respective entities with the Data Protection Office. I think to date we have on record, as the National Personal Data Protection Director said, companies or government agencies that have heeded to this and registered themselves under this entity. Before I wind up, I will not have many words this morning. I wish to applaud all the stakeholders that have created an invaluable contribution towards the successful launch of the Data Protection and Privacy Portal. With these few remarks, I would like to once again congratulate you all upon this launch of the Data Protection and Privacy Portal and call upon all agencies, MDAs, institutions in the country. It does not apply only to government, but all institutions and all citizens to register with this portal, because at the end of the day, as we engage in different stakeholder partnerships with development partners, with the private sector, we need to create that assurance that people's data is secure and people's privacy is adhered to. I thank you very much and hand over to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amina. For all of us to know, the portal is, as according to the laws, the portal is hosted in Uganda in the government data center, which is operated by the National Information Technology Authority, and it's secure within that regards. Honorable Minister, allow me next to invite Dr. Hatweb Mogasa, Executive Director for NITA Uganda, to offer his brief remarks, and thereafter we come to address. Thank you so much.
Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, Board Chair of NITA Uganda, the Director, National Personal Data Protection Office, the Digital Country Lead for UNCDF, and participants and members of the media, welcome to this launch. It's an opportunity to showcase what Uganda has. The National Data Protection Office is an opportunity. It's the first of its kind, as PS has stated, in East Africa. So this is a flagship office for the region, and I'm very appreciative of the ministry and the government for spearheading this initiative in the region. Thank you very much, the ministry. Today, a lot of transactions are being performed online globally. Uganda, we're not any different. We are also having systems going online. We know our financial systems in government have been digitized. Procurement is digitized. Education is also going digital. But we are missing out one key factor. What is a risk? What is a risk of putting these systems online? We have seen what happens when we don't mitigate those risks, or when we don't put them into the focus of our activities. So this office is going to ensure that the risks are controlled, there are measures, they are mitigated, and they are prevented. Access of information through integration of government systems is happening right now, and NITA is spearheading that integration process through a platform that we term UGPass, or the Government Integration Platform. We have connected many government systems together. It has improved efficiency, it has reduced duplication, and it has made the time to access information shorter. It has made it real time. So if you need information from, I usually refer the main source of information, the national ID. If you need to verify a citizen, you can do it within a click of a button, as opposed to lining up, taking weeks to verify your national ID. You can just do it within a click of a button. Other services are coming on board. We are seeing loan or financial services also accessing this information, this integration platform. An example is if you want to get a student loan, you need to authenticate that this is an actual student, is a registered student in the school. He has not applied for many loans. He has not, all that information has to be authenticated. And through this integration, you're able to do that immediately. But some, and I'll give an example where the information is available, but probably it has to be better accessed. And the office, the National Personal Data Protection Office, comes in place to ensure that access is well retrieved. There are some times when you are required to provide information which is not relevant to that office. I know I'm a culprit. One time I was asked to give my mother's email address, my father's email address, and my mother's email address. So many things that were not relevant at that time, and this is because of lack of knowledge, or there's a knowledge gap in the entities that are collecting this information. Why do I need to provide irrelevant information? And this information is personal. It's personal to, in that case, personal to our parents. Some information that's personal to me may not be relevant to the office that is collecting it. So we need to put in place such measures to enable relevant sharing of information. And if we don't do that, we'll be frustrated by the ignorance of the regulatory environment, especially the data protection and privacy by the staff of the agencies that are participating in the collection of this information. With the launch of this information center on data protection and privacy, this will go a long way in addressing this knowledge gap on this matter, and thereby increasing the level of compliance and citizen trust in how their personal data is accessed and shared. I also need to state that this campaign, it will be termed the personal data. Personal data is private. This campaign is going to be running for the next 2 months. It will be going out to the last person, Omuntu Wawansi, the upcountry location. This is where majority of information, or where there's a lot of information gap. There's a lot of information there. There are people collecting our information, but the gap in understanding this law is highly observed in that region. Before I conclude, I would like to reiterate the commitment of NITA Uganda through our board and the management of NITA the commitment to support the Data Protection Office in its operations, and I would also like to congratulate the Director, National Data Protection Office, and the other partners in seeing the launch is successful. Thank you very much. With those remarks, I would like to welcome the Honorable Minister to give us her remarks and to officially launch the data protection portal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edie. Nitayu. The Permanent Secretary, ICT, UN Resident Commissioner, the ED Media Center, the ED Nitayu, the Director Data Protection, representatives from NIRA, the developers of the portal, invited guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. First of all, I want to bring greetings from my senior minister, Dr. Chris Bariomos, who was supposed to be here this morning with you to launch this personal data protection portal. But due to official engagements, he could not be with you this morning, but he has sent greetings to you all. The government of Uganda enacted the Data Protection and Privacy Act 2019, which came into force on 3rd May 2019. This act comprehensively and adequately provides for matters of personal data protection and privacy. It further gives effect to Article 27 of the Constitution by safeguarding personal data. The objectives of the Act include the following. 1. To protect the privacy of the individual and of personal data by regulating the collection and processing of personal information. 2. To provide for the rights of the persons whose data is collected and the obligations of data controllers, data processors, and data controllers. C. To regulate the use of disclosure of personal information and for related matters. The Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, with support of its agents, NITAU, completed and gazetted regulations to operationalize the law of 12 March 2021. As required by the law, the Personal Data Protection Office, DPPO, was established within NITA Uganda to oversee the implementation of the law following the recruitment of the staff, and the DPPO commenced its work at the beginning of August 2021. We have noted the work the Personal Data Protection Office is doing and urged them to continue with the good work, especially on creating awareness and enforcement. Today, the Ministry, in collaboration with the Personal Data Protection Office, joins the world to celebrate the Data Privacy Day in Uganda. Data Privacy Day is celebrated worldwide on the 20th January of every year as an international effort to empower individuals and encourage businesses to respect privacy, safeguard data, and enable trust. I'm happy that today Uganda joins the rest of the world in celebrating this day under the theme, Your Privacy Matters. The Ministry, through the Personal Data Protection Office, hopes to use this day to highlight the key issues on data protection and privacy in Uganda and the resources that have been developed for individuals, businesses, and government institutions to foster awareness of privacy rights and obligations. To that end, I am aware that a number of webinars have been held this week to support this purpose. The Ministry is at the forefront of driving digitization in Uganda. Uptake in the utilization of this platform requires trust from the intended beneficiaries. Therefore, data protection and privacy takes center stage because the personal data needs to be protected and privacy rights need to be upheld. Data privacy also needs to be ensured as we embrace the fourth industrial revolution with a focus on harnessing the potential and opportunities that come with it. The Ministry, through the office, will vigorously enforce the Data Protection and Privacy Act and its attendant regulations. We are committed to this cause and we shall support the Personal Data Protection Office and NITA Uganda in delivering on this mandate. In the same spirit, I call upon organizations, personal and collect and process personal data to meet their obligations and comply with the Data Protection and Privacy Act and its regulations. I thank you for God and my country. Now I take this honor to officially launch the Personal Data Protection Portal for God and my country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We're going to take 10 minutes to demo the portal so that we show the look and feel. Then we'll have the signing ceremony, then we'll have the press interaction. So at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Baker Berikuja, the manager, licensing and legal affairs at the Personal Data Protection Office, to quickly take us through the portal that the Honorable Minister has launched today so that we see how easy it is for someone to make a complaint. If they have internet and a phone, they can still do that on the portal. Or if they don't have access to internet, you can still do it using USSD as using the government shortcode *260# and privacy. Allow me, I invite and welcome Mr. Beka Benkuja.
Good morning to you. As introduced, my name is Beka Benkuja. I'm the Manager Licensing and Legal Affairs at the Personal Data Protection Office. With me, introduce yourself.
John Baptist from Applied Principles, the developer of the portal.
So this is the portal. You go to www.pdpo.go.ug. Then that's our homepage, but we'll now go straight to filing a complaint. So where the cursor is, where I'm hovering it, at the top, you click File a Complaint. But before I go ahead, the officers already brought up, discussed by the National Personal Data Protection Director, requires the office to receive complaints in respect to violating rights in relation to personal data. So we came up with a guideline on how to lodge complaints. It was published last year in December. So what this portal is doing, it's really automated the guidelines plus also what's in the law. So the guidelines require that before you report or file a complaint, you should have taken it to the organization concerned, the one that you gave your data, and they either misused it, gave it to another person without authorization. So we are cognizant of the fact that some people may not know how to reach the organization. So the portal allows you to generate a letter that you can take to the organization. So you start with step 1. It's in 4 stages, where in case the organization is registered, and we encourage all of them to register, you click here and it will bring you the names. So let's say the organization is not registered, the name doesn't come up, you click Other and type the details. So for demonstration purposes, we'll use AZY Limited. So you type in the name. So we ask you if you're a customer or not. Let me say I'm a customer. I give them my information at onboarding. Then have I complained to the organization before? Let's say no. So I click there. We go to the next step. Then now we need your details to be able to know who you are and to be able to properly investigate the complaint. So let me put in my name. Then the gender, we need it for statistics purposes to be able to understand why is it that probably more males are complaining or more females to guide our enforcement purposes. Then the age group, still for statistics, we do reporting, so this is to help us with the targeted messages, to know is it the youth, maybe the older people do not understand the message and cannot complain, so we'll click this. Then the physical address, and this information comes from the statutory forms with the regulations which were passed last year. They give a prescribed way or a standardized way through which you're supposed to complain, so that speaks to it. So here you'll tell us which personal data has been affected. So let's say my social security number, national ID. It gives the various categories that you can select from. And then maybe something to do with my financial information. So the law has 3 forms. There is what we call inappropriate security measures. then inaccurate personal data. But now these two examples forms, they give you scenarios that you can select from. So someone hasn't maybe rectified your data, hasn't updated it, or they haven't erased it, or general infringement of the law. Let's say they don't have a complaints handling system, they are not registered. So you choose any, then below it you give more details of the complaint. So after you've done that, you'll be able to preview the letter that you'll take to the organization. As you see, this letter picks up the information what I've been giving through the portal. So it has, you know, the name of the person complaining and the concern, and you know, stating people, like I told you, you're required to take this complaint to the organization, my phone number and details, and the period within which the organization should give you a response. So you download the letter, and it takes you to, you download the letter, sign it, and take it to the organization. But we always encourage you to receive an email and an SMS that please take this letter to the organization. Now, in case the organization still does not address your complaint, so you can come back. You come back to the portal. So if you've complained before and you didn't get the help, you don't need to provide the information afresh. Rather, you can put in the tracking number so that it auto-populates the information. So that's the other scenario. So the other one is mainly about, you know, when you go through the process of the organization, you complained to them before or maybe outside the portal. So this one I'm going to be quick because the process is similar. So here is where you can put in the tracking number in case you have, and then you upload the evidence. And then down here you give us details of the person that you've been dealing with. If you talk to someone at the customer care center, or you walked into the premises and you talk to someone, you give us those details. So in case you haven't, you can still be able to move on. Slash. Is it a slash?
840.
So as you see, when I put in the tracking number, it auto-populates with the information that I had earlier keyed in when I generated the letter. So, but here you can be able to edit the information, you know, about the details. So this is how you go about it. Then at the end of it all, you should be able to receive a message that we've received your complaint. In the interest of time, I'm going to stop here and we look at another option where you can use the USSD for those people that do not have access to the internet. So they're going to play a video. Okay, thank you. So that's the demonstration on how you can raise the complaint. So please assert your rights about the organizations, be it government or private sector, that are collecting your information and have misused it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. So please exercise your rights. Star 260 hash, then you choose privacy. At this point in time, I want the Personal Data Protection Office is proceeding to the next item, where I want to do a ceremonial event to launch the portal. I will invite the National Personal Data Protection Director, the Honorable Minister, the Permanent Secretary, and the Executive Director, NITA Uganda, and the top management for NITA to come to the front for this ceremony. Then we'll have the press interview after this. Honorable James. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Stella, you may guide.
Let me take this opportunity to officially cut the ribbon to launch the personal data protection for God and my country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, PS, and the leadership of NITA. The portal is now live. It's fully active. If for any reason you forget how to access it, just Google personal data Uganda. It will bring you to our portal. Thank you all.
Morning, my name is Walter Mwesije from NTV. I have a couple of questions. I want to understand how you will hold offenders prior 2019 to account, because we know the law is not retrospective. But also, simplify for us what kind of data are you talking about? Because this is information you want to understand. What kind of data are you trying to protect? We also know sometimes it's difficult for the ordinary folk to know who misused their data and how they should raise a complaint against the unknown. For example, when we are accessing most of your offices, we write our data in books at the reception and many other places. I'm not sure how many books I've written in, and I don't know where they are right now. Sometimes we get unknown calls from thugs, from anybody, and I cannot clearly say that it is because I wrote my details at the police headquarters and that's where my data could have been leaked. So maybe I'm going to raise a complaint that my data was misused at a certain place. How are we going to deal with that? But also would like to understand if you know of some offenders that you're currently holding to account since 2019, after the law had been put in place, and the penalties for the offenders. And specifically to the ED NITA, how much have you done towards connecting government entities? You talked about the work that you're doing. What percent? 50, 60, and how much is left? What is remaining, and what's the problem? Or if there is no problem, would like to know.
Thanks very much. My name is Ben Jumbe. I work with Nation Media Group. Several questions. One, to the Director, Data Protection. You talked about planning now to take action. When do we see you cracking down the whip? And then what kind of offenses or penalties will you be giving government agencies that don't comply? You talked about the number of people that have already, or companies that have already registered. What is the number you're looking at in total? The other point is you're asking people to register with you. We've registered in several places. NIRA has our data. Internal Affairs, for those that have passports, have our data. For the banks, I think they also get our data. Those that have driving licenses also have data. Why don't you get to engage maybe NIRA, which has all our data, and just synchronize the system so that people don't have to register with you again? And finally, do I have to just register when I have a complaint? If I don't, why do I have to register with you when these agencies already have my data? Thank you.
Yes, morning. My name is Ali Twaha and I work with New Vision. One question has been taken, so I have one. Of the 340 plus organizations that you've registered so far, how do you categorize this? Because I know financial sector is one of those that have to register, but how do you break it down in terms of, I don't know, finance, how many are they? I don't know, education. Just give us a feel of that. But also, my colleague tackled the one of those eligible of all the companies we have. What's the projection? How many are eligible to, comply with the law? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The questions are somewhat asked already, but I was asking, what is the penalty for not registering? I don't know whether the date was for last year or deadline or it's for this year. The other question is, this 300 and something, what percentage of compliance does that make? About how many organizations or institutions are you looking to register? The other thing is that media seem to be a vulnerable target for many complainants, as these days we have a lot of lawsuits for defamation and the like. How are you going to protect the media for this? And then finally, is this not creating a parallel kind of legal system? How does it work? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Chirunda. I work with Vision Group. My question goes to NITA and data protection. With things like perpetual dissemination of unsolicited messages, for example, phone messages to the members of the public, do you feel data is protected safe? And another one also, do you feel the custodial organizations, the 345 that are charged with the duty of data protection, do you think they have done their duty well of data protection? Thank you.
As a person. For instance, my name, Stella Alibatese, my telephone number, my email address, my account number, my NIN, my passport number. It could even be different data, as long as when it's put together, it identifies me as a person. That is the data that is regulated under this law. So data relating to companies, trade secrets is not under this law. If you have data that you're utilizing and you've anonymized it, in other words, no one can tell who these individuals are. If it is in a computer system, it is just numbers 0 and 1, then that would not be personal data. So the data we are talking about is data that identifies someone as a human being. What will happen where abuse was in 2019? I think you answered the question. The law is not in place yet. So you cannot penalize an organization for an offense that didn't exist in 2019. However, as I indicated, it is our intention to make sure that now that we have a law, that all the organizations in Uganda that collect and process personal data comply with the law. If we have any breaches, we'll be able to penalize organizations and their leaders for these breaches. In terms of penalties for non-compliance, we have not yet issued any penalties. You'll note from the law that for us to be able to issue penalties, we have to go through court and we have to prosecute these entities. For your comfort, the law, beyond prosecuting the organization, also lifts the veil and allows the prosecution of an individual who caused that non-compliance. For instance, for those organizations who are not registering, we've been writing to these organizations, and that will be some of the evidence we'll use to be able to prosecute them. Once we prosecute them, the penalties are also prescribed, and they range from imprisonment of 1 year and up to 10 years. In terms of enforcement, if you all recall, we did an investigation against Guinness transporters, commonly known as Safe Border. We did not penalize them because the law had just started, but we gave various recommendations which they were supposed to comply with. We've noted that they've done many improvements since then, and we've also done a follow-up audit to confirm that they implemented the recommendations that we gave them. We've already had meetings with the Director of Public Prosecution, and that was, I think, early this year or late last year, where the Director of Public Prosecutions agreed to support us. They have what they call the Cyber Crimes Unit. So issues related to data protection non-compliance will be prosecuted by the Cyber Crimes Unit. So we've already done those arrangements. We are now collecting evidence against those organizations. As an office, we do not want to surprise people, so we are writing to these organizations, and when they fail, we can then prosecute the organization plus the accounting officer or the managing director or that director compliance, who, even despite receiving this information, did not comply. It is true we had issued an ultimatum on which was 31st December 2021, but we realized that most of our campaign had been over a period of 3 months. So we decided, let us prepare our in-house, activities, and then starting with July next year, which is our next financial year, we'll then start cracking the whip. So we encourage entities to register with us. One of the questions was, once you register, what happens? Is that all? No, that is not all. That is just the beginning. First of all, registration enables you to understand what data you hold, where you keep it as part of that registration process. Secondly, you identify or designate a data protection officer who is our key contact person as an office, but also that person can be trained to be able to provide the guidance to you. We expect organizations, after registration, to develop their own internal data protection and privacy compliance frameworks or data governance frameworks, which define how they are going to deal with data protection. We expect organizations to have privacy policies that are clearly communicated to their customers, because when you're in breach of that privacy policy, that is when a complaint can be raised against you. That is when you'll be in non-compliance with the law. There were questions from Nation Media. I think I've answered some of them. In terms of penalties, the penalties are applicable to private and public sector. So if it's a government body, they do not get a different penalty from what the private sector gets, so it's the same. What is the number of government agencies registered? The register is a public document. If you go to our website, you click search register, you'll see all the companies that are registered. We do not yet have statistics on the number of government agencies who have registered, but in my remarks I mentioned some of those key organizations such as NERA, which holds our largest personal data bank in Uganda, and Ministry of Health. We have NSSF. We have a number of government agencies that have registered. Of course, we are cognizant that the compliance is still low, but the PS has signed a circular to all accounting officers. So we expect that by the end of this financial year, we'll see an increase in the number of government agencies or ministries who are registered. Why don't you engage NIRA? I believe that is already ongoing. The EDNITA you mentioned, UG Pass or UG Hub, which is an integration layer that allows bodies to pick information from other organization databases such as NIRA. It is a work in progress, but I know NITA, which is in charge of that, should be able to deliver on that since the system is already in place. Do I have to register when I don't have a complaint? No. The registration requirement is for organizations that collect and process data. For data subjects, what we need from you is to understand your rights under the law, and when someone is in breach, to raise the complaint. Obviously, when you raise a complaint, we need to know who you are, and that is why you register with us. If you're not complaining, just receive information, learn about the Data Protection and Privacy Act, and then implement it in all spheres of your life. The breakdown for registrations, we haven't yet done those statistics, but I can tell you, for instance, for the telecom companies, almost all of them are registered, whether MTN, whether Airtel, Liquid Telecom, Leica, all these are registered. When you look at the financial sector, about 85% of the banks are already registered. And we determine some of these from our interaction with the regulators. Looking at who they have licensed, we are then able to know that this number has registered. How many are eligible to comply with the law? We are still working on those statistics, but we expect, we estimate between 3,000 and 5,000 organizations should register with us. When we have the figure of 345, we are at about 10%. I've already talked about the penalties. How do you protect the media? We've had some registrations from the media. I believe Nation Group, New Vision registered. Your organizations also have to register with the office. You have to have that data governance framework which guides you, because media is protected in certain reasons if you're disclosing this information for certain purposes. But this, when you're dealing with personal data, you're also expected to only provide what is necessary for you to communicate the story. Sometimes you see, especially the online bloggers, putting people's salaries online. You know, name the salary, when they received it, too much detail. So the responsibility is also new to ensure that you comply. As an office, we've done, we did do a training in 2021 for journalists, and we are going to be organizing more trainings so that you are aware how to do your work within the law. Unsolicited messages, there's a lot, I think, that has been said over the years, and UCC has done a lot of work to stop these unsolicited messages. Thank you very much.
The places where we also register our data.
Yes.
In your offices. How are such places going to be monitored? I mean, what mechanism is going to be there for me to know that certainly this office I went to the other day is where my data could have been misused or misplaced or mishandled?
The first thing that needs to be done for those organizations is to register. And when we go through that registration process, we normally tell people there's a lot of personal data that you collect. Even that data from the receptionist must be protected. So organizations are required, when they are developing their compliance frameworks, when you develop your compliance framework, because we'll expect this from all organizations. In other words, when you go, let's say, to NITA and you want to access a service, you can still ask them, how do you utilize this data? They should be able to have a privacy policy that tells you, we collect this data to be able to identify you as someone who accessed our building. We destroy this data after maybe 1 year. So this information, whether it is at that entry point, whether it is employee records, all that record is still governed by the law. So there is no difference. What we expect is organizations who collect personal data at whatever point actually comply with the law. Of course, the task for the office is to ensure that we identify all these organizations, that we ensure they register with us, that we ensure they have internal compliance frameworks, and that once they have them, we make sure that they actually implement and enforce them. I hope that answers your question.
Honorable Minister, tubadde tusaba otuweko mu Luganda.
Olunaku lwa leero tuli wano ku Media Council Center okutongoza okutongoza amawulire agakwata ku bantu nga abantu ebibakwatako. Twegamba tubadde waliwo amawulire agakwata ku bantu agabadde tegali protected, ng'abantu bagakozesanga bwe baagala, naye olwaleero tuzze wano okulaba nga tugezaako abantu ebintu ebikwata ku muntu ng'omuntu ebiri personal. Waliwo ebintu ebimu byetwajja mu ebyandibadde eby'Oluganda naye nga tubikozesa ne mu Luzungu naye nga tubikozesa ne mu Luganda nga kigambo personal oba ebikwata ku muntu. Katugamba amawulire gakwata ku gwe ng'omuntu kinoomu. Katugambe amannya go, gy'ozaalibwa, bakadde bo, akaunti yo eya banka, ebintu ebiri personal kwegamba ebikukwata ku gwe ng'omuntu, okulaba nti tubikuuma tutya bireme kusaasaana, buli omu kubikozesa nga bw'aba ayagala. Yensonga lwaki twagala okwebaza ennyo bannaffe aba NITA-U, aba UN, nammwe aba Media Center kubanga nammwe mutuleese wano, bonna ne NIRA, abo bonna abasobodde okujja okulaba nti twegatta wamu mu kulwanyisa okukozesa olulimi olubi ku bintu ebitukwatako nga abantu. Mulaba mu social media abantu babadde boogera ku bantu ebibakwatako ebiri personal, ebimu nga biswaza, ebimu nga si birungi. ebirala nga tebiteekwa kufuluma bweru bantu kubimanya bibyo gwe ng'omuntu bikukwatako gwe ng'omuntu naye abantu nabanga babadde babikozesanga bwe balaba naye nga tewali abagambako oba tewali abafaako kakati tutongoza ekitongole kino nga tugamba nti nedda ebintu ebinkwatako nze nga nze bisigale nga byange nga nze okujjako ng'ofunye olukusa okuva eri nze nekugamba kale bikozese awo oyinza okubikozesa oba bwe biba nti kooti ebyagala awo eyinza okubikozesa naye era nga bambuulidde kale n'olwekyo tuli wano okulaba nti tuyamba abantu ababadde bayisibwa obubi olw'amawulire ago gabadde gabakwatako nga gagenda gafulumizibwa abantu kinnoomu nga bwe baagala ensonga lwaki tuli wano okulaba nga tutongoza amawulire ago gasigale nga gakyama omuntu asigale n'ekitiibwa kye mu kyama kireme kubanga bakyonoona ensonga lwaki tuli wano ku lunaku lwaleero tukitongoza era abantu abakozesa amawulire abadde bakozesa amawulire agakwata ku bantu kinnoomu ag'ebyama nga bakozesa nga bwe baagala kati okuva na leero mumanye nti tutaddewo ekitongole ekiyinza okubavunaana n'olwekyo mulina okwegendereza omuntu olina okumala okufuna olukusa okuva gy'ali n'omwogerako oba n'okozesa ebintu bye bimukwatako ye nga omuntu ensonga lwaki tuli wano simanyi oba kivuddeyo bulungi ajonno mukitegedde bulungi thank you.
Mwebale nnyo okutwegattako mu Luganda okubannyonnyola ekituleese wano n'ekyetukola tuzze okutongoza ekibangirizi abantu mwe basobola okuyitamu okomplaininga oba engeri nga si basanyufu ebiwandiiko ebibakwatako engeri gye bikozesezaamu ebitongole ebyenjawulo ebya gavumenti n'ebitongole kinnoomu ng'era tetujja kukoma ku kibangirizi kino tujja kulaba n'engeri oba gye bannyonnyoddemu abantu okuyita mu message okuweereza ekitongole kyaffe nga bali dissatisfied oba nga si basanyufu engeri ekitongole gye kikuttemu ebiwandiiko ebibakwatako tekikomye wano naye tutandise campaign gye tugenda okuba nga emboozi eno tujongera mu maaso si ku bantu kinnoomu naye era n'ebitongole engeri gye bisobola okukwata ebiwandiiko bino mwebale nnyo okusiba weebale nnyo kati okusiba si nti kyekintu kye twagala ennyo naye tujja kuba nga tusomesa abantu engeri gye basobola okukwatamu ebiwandiiko bino nga naye babeera batagondedde etteeka lino nakuwuliriza tuba tusiba abo bakola mu bitongole ebyo buli muntu yenna oba okutandikira ku CEO n'oyo omuntu awa amagezi ekitongole naye era n'ekitongole nakyo tujja kuba nga tukifayininga oba nga bakisaba okusasula sente empitirivu naye kati okwewala ebyo byonna tubasaba amateeka gano mugagondere era wonna we mutategedde musobole otutuukirira ebitongole byakewandiisa 345 nga bino biva ku bitongole bya gavumenti ebya zibanka ne amasomero agamu ne ziwooteri ebibonerezo ebiriwo bikakkali era byamaanyi mu mateeka kuli nti okusibwa waliwo abamu basobola okusibwa okumala myezi 6 abamu n'okumala emyaka ate nga mwebajja n'ekitongole ekikutte ku biwandiiko bino obubi tebakoma ku muntu oyo awa amagezi naye era n'apulira n'ekitongole naye kiba kimutwaliramu nga naye si koma ku ekyo n'abo abalala babeera nga tubawa fayini tugenda mu kooti ekitongole kiba nga kisasula ssente empitirivu ate zino zibalibwa nti ku butundutundu obwa bubiri ku ssente ze babeera bakoze ze babeera basasula nga fayini. Amanya bampita beeka biri kujja.
Thank you so much, Baker. We've come to the end of our press conference. Immediately we are expecting the just get a cup of tea and a refreshment extra.